Picture this. It's a sunny spring afternoon in Sheffield, England. The date? April 15th, 1989. Thousands of football fans are buzzing with excitement, decked out in red, ready to cheer on their beloved Liverpool FC in the FA Cup semi-final against Nottingham Forest. Little did they know this day would go down in history for all the wrong reasons. The Leppings Lane nightmare. As kickoff approached, the scene outside Hillsborough Stadium was chaos. Liverpool supporters were packed like sardines, trying to squeeze through a handful of turnstiles. The police, overwhelmed by the crowd, made a fateful decision. They swung open an exit gate, thinking it'd ease the pressure. A flood of fans poured into the already packed central pens. It was like trying to fit an ocean into a bathtub. People were crammed in so tight they could barely breathe. Panic set in as folks realized they were in serious trouble. Now, you'd think someone would have spotted the danger and stopped the match, right? Nope, the referee blew his whistle at 3 p.m. sharp, oblivious to the horror unfolding just yards away. Within minutes, it was clear something was terribly wrong. Fans were climbing fences, gasping for air, begging for help. But here's the kicker. Some officials thought it was just rowdy hooligans trying to storm the pitch. Talk about a tragic misunderstanding. The community shattered. When the chaos finally settled, 94 people who had woken up that morning ready for a football match never made it home. It's a number that hits you in the gut, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. These weren't just faceless statistics. They were real people with families who loved them. Picture the youngest, a 10-year-old boy, probably bouncing with excitement that morning as he put on his Liverpool jersey. Then there was the oldest, a granddad of 67, maybe looking forward to sharing the day with his grandkids. In between, 92 others. Sons and daughters, moms and dads, best mates, all of them were gone in one awful afternoon. But wait, it gets worse. In the days that followed, 2 more people lost their fight for life in the hospital. Now we're up to 96. 96 empty chairs at dinner tables. 96 voices silenced. 96 families left to pick up the pieces. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? But life can be cruel sometimes. There was this one gentleman named Andrew DIDN. He was there that day. Got hurt real bad. Brain damage, they said. For 32 years. Think about that. More than 3 decades, he hung on, fighting every day. His family cared for him, hoping against hope. But in 2021, his body finally gave out. He became victim number 97. It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? All because of one afternoon that went horribly wrong. Now, imagine you're one of those families. Your loved one goes off to a football match and never comes home. You're grief-stricken, in shock. Then to add insult to injury, some big newspaper starts printing lies. They say it was the fans' fault, that Liverpool supporters caused the tragedy. The top cop in charge that day backs up his story. Can you imagine how that must have felt? Your world's already being turned upside down and now people are pointing fingers at the victims. It's enough to make your blood boil. The blame game. Now, you'd think everyone would rally around the grieving families, right? Fat chance. The very next day, the Sun newspaper splashed a headline that'd make your blood boil. The truth! Only it was anything but. They accused Liverpool fans of pickpocketing the dead, attacking cops, and all sorts of vile behavior. Where'd they get this rubbish? From South Yorkshire Police and a local big shot. That's where the top cop, Chief Superintendent David Duckenfield, even had the nerve to claim fans had forced open the gate, conveniently forgetting he'd given the order himself. Talk about adding insult to injury. The people of Liverpool were furious. They'd lost loved ones, and now they were being painted as monsters. No wonder they told the Sun where to stick it. A boycott that's still going strong today. Justice. The 27-year itch. Look, getting justice for those who died at Hillsborough? It was like trying to climb a mountain with your hands tied behind your back. Frustrating doesn't even begin to cover it. So, here's how it went down. Back in '91, they held this inquest, to figure out what happened. But get this, they said it was just an accident. Can you believe that? The families of those who died sure couldn't. They knew something wasn't right, and they weren't about to let it go. For years, they kept pushing, kept asking questions, kept demanding answers. It was like shouting into the wind sometimes, but they didn't give up. Finally, in 2009, someone up top must have grown a conscience. They set up this thing called the Hillsborough Independent Panel. 3 years later, in 2012, this panel dropped their report. The report cleared the Liverpool fans, said they weren't to blame at all. And the police? Well, it showed how they'd just been trying to cover their tracks all along. Imagine that. The very people meant to protect us lying to save their own skins. But wait, it gets better. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. In 2016, they held new inquests. And let me tell you, these things dragged on longer than a rainy Sunday afternoon. But in the end, the jury finally said what the families had known all along. Those 96 people, later 97 remember, were unlawfully killed. And the Liverpool fans, not at fault, not one bit. 27 years later. That's how long it took. Think about that. Kids born the year of the disaster were grown adults with families of their own by the time the truth came out. It's enough to make you want to scream, isn't it? But here's the thing. Those families, they never gave up. They kept fighting, year after year after year. When people told them to let it go, they dug their heels in harder. And in the end, they won. They got their truth. They cleared the names of their loved ones. It's a hard lesson, this story. Shows you that sometimes justice takes its sweet time. That the big guys don't always play fair. But it also shows you the power of sticking together, of fighting for what's right, no matter how long it takes. Changing the game. Lord Taylor steps up. While the families were fighting for justice, football was getting a major overhaul. Lord Justice Taylor was brought in to figure out what went wrong and how to stop it from happening again. His report was like a bomb going off in the football world. Here's what he came up with. Number 1, no more standing around. All big stadiums had to become all-seater affairs, no more packed terraces. Number 2, fence removal. Those metal fences that had trapped people, gone. Number 3, steward school. Better training for the folks managing the crowds. Number 4, stadium makeovers. Redesigning entrances, exits, and walkways to keep people flowing smoothly. Number 5, emergency plan shakeup. Getting police, ambulance, and fire services working together like a well-oiled machine. Football's facelift. These changes didn't just alter how stadiums looked. They changed the whole vibe of English football. Number 1, fancy new digs. Clubs spruced up their grounds, making them more comfy and easier on the eye. Number 2, new faces in the crowd. With safer, cozier stadiums, more families and women started showing up. Number 3, hitting the wallet. All these improvements meant ticket prices shot up. Ouch. Number 4, clubs shape up. Teams had to get their act together when it came to safety and crowd control. Number 5, image overhaul. Football started shaking off its hooligan reputation, becoming more family-friendly. Never forgotten. Hillsborough left a mark on football in Britain that'll never fade. Number 1, remembering the 97. Every year, Liverpool FC holds a service at Anfield. It's a tearjerker, let me tell you. Number 2, justice for the 96. This battle cry echoed for years, pushing for truth and accountability. Number 3, media wake-up call. After the Sun's cock-up, people started asking harder questions about what they read in the newspapers. Number 4, legal system shake-up. The whole mess showed some big flaws in how inquests worked and how police were held accountable. Number 5, Liverpool united. If there's one silver lining, it's how the tragedy brought the city together. Talk about strength in numbers. The final whistle. Hillsborough was more than just a football disaster. It was a wake-up call, a fight for justice, and a catalyst for change. Those 97 lives lost didn't just change the sport, they changed a nation. Next time you're sitting comfy in a football stadium, spare a thought for the folks who aren't there to enjoy it. Their legacy is all around you. In the seats, the open terraces, the trained stewards. Hillsborough taught us the hard way that fan safety isn't just important, it's everything. It's a lesson we can't afford to forget, because at the end of the day, football's about joy, not tragedy. And that's something worth fighting for.